UFC London is happening this Saturday, March 22nd. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. And with that, we're going to break down the main card from bottom to top. For our first bout, we have a featherweight fight between Nathaniel Wood and Morgan Charriere. Nathaniel Wood's last fight was against Pineda, where he was able to display pretty decent striking. Hurt Pineda several times, showed decent power. Pineda was able to take him down and control him there, but I don't think that's going to be much of a factor here in a fight against Charriere. Clean 1-2s all night. Definitely hurt Pineda. Pineda looked hurt several times physically. And we're talking about a guy who's usually a very tough fighter, a guy that can keep going and going and going, and is kind of a tank of a man himself, Pineda. His opponent, Charriere, I truly believe this guy's the next big thing in featherweight. Has the looks, great style for fighting, fan-friendly, and he's packaging everything with some amazing highlights. His last fight against Miranda, he got a second round TKO KO win. Very explosive fighter, very sharp, very tight, very accurate. I believe this fight's gonna be a stand-up fight. The fact that Nathaniel Wood was able to hurt his opponent but still get taken down and held down tells me his wrestling's not great enough to be a factor in this fight. They're going to be forced to stand. Charriere is going to get a TKO, KO victory somewhere around second or third round. Second fight of our main card, we go to the lightweights, and we have a fight between Jordan Vucenic versus Chris Duncan. Vucenic actually looked good in his last fight against Alexia. He actually dropped them the whole time he was going and going, never seemed to give up, although eventually the fight turned against his favor. Despite his loss, like I mentioned, dropped Alexia early. He still kept on pushing. Never once did I see him get discouraged. Never once did I see him break. He was still going and going and going. It's just Alexia got into his rhythm and took over from there on. His opponent, Chris Duncan, on the other hand, yes, he got a first round submission, but it was not looking good for him at all. Duncan was getting clipped. He was getting hurt. His counters were too slow, too sloppy. The guy just doesn't have good stand-up. He was actually lucky that he landed that guillotine choke. And that whole ordeal was kind of weird. That he landed that is actually... I'm not using the right word here. Oki gave him that guillotine choke by doing a sloppy, deep single takedown. And I mean, even then, he was out 10, 12 seconds into the choke. Eventually, Duncan let go, and Oki was clearly just asleep on top of him. Definitely one of the most bizarre submission victories. Like I mentioned, Oki pretty much gave him that submission, did a deep single leg takedown, got caught in the guillotine, was out cold, and somehow his body was on autopilot. Nobody noticed until Duncan gave up on his own guillotine, smacked him a couple times very lightly on the side of the head, and that's when he noticed, crap, this guy is limp. Signaled to the ref stepped in. That being said, he's not going to be able to do that to Vucenic. Vucenic is a little too tough, a little too explosive, a little too athletic. He's not going to fall for the guillotine. He's going to keep it standing, and Duncan's not going to get lucky twice. I see Vucenic either stopping him in the late rounds or winning by unanimous decision. Third fight of our main event, we have a women's strawweight bout between Mccann and Alexia Thainara. What can I say about Meatball Molly Mccann? I'm personally not a fan. I know a lot of people like her because she's exciting, but man, while I do agree with the exciting part, she's just not a good fighter. Very sloppy, very little technique in her attacks. She's powerful though, and as she's displayed, she has the stopping ability. but just very sloppy, no technique. Like I mentioned, I see very technical strikers that can handle the pace easily, beating Mccann any time of the week. Lucky for her, they paired her up against Alexia, who's another fighter that just comes forward, very aggressive, throws power shots, decent cardio to keep up a 3-round fight. Alexia's just a dog. She has a decent overhand right that she can fire off like a piston, but a lack of technique. So in this fight, I do see a lot of exchanges where both women are gonna land heavy leather on each other. The difference is, although in Alexia's last fight she was able to land her right hand consistently, not once did I notice her opponent rocked. While Molly Mccann, if she lands on you, you're getting hurt or you're going to sleep. We got two female Rams that are gonna go head to head, and I really think Mccann's gonna be able to take this one with a stoppage, either first or second round TKO. Fourth fight of the evening, we go to the welterweight division. We have a returning Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland. By now, I don't think anybody has faith in Kevin Holland. The guy's a quitter, he's a complainer, definitely has the talent to be something, just doesn't do it. We've all seen his career, his potential, and recently his interviews regarding podcasts. I mean, people forget that after his Khamzat Chimaev loss, the guy was bragging on the post-fight press conference, like, I already made a lot of money, I'm gonna retire, peace out, yo. And it's just pathetic, man. This guy just wants to be so cool, he wants to be so flashy, so pretentious, and I really don't like this guy. To add on top of a dislikable character, his performances have been shit. The guy showed little sparks of greatness in his fight against Dolidze. There was a couple exchanges where he threw, and although they didn't really land because Dolidze mostly blocked all of them, but like I mentioned, his combinations, his speed, the way he cut the angle to get out immediately, the guy shows a lot of potential, but then complained and quit because of a rib injury. And not once did they show that there was bruising in there, something after the fact. Usually these fighters show x-rays or something along those lines. This guy, where's his injury? As I mentioned, a quitter that had potential, and you're putting him up against Gunnar Nelson, a guy that seems to have the kryptonite, that style that Holland struggles a lot with. Gunnar Nelson is coming off a long layoff, and in his last fight he was able to dominate and look incredibly well against Brian Barberena, a guy that's just always ready to bring it, always in shape. So that was an incredible submission win by Gunnar Nelson. I think this is an easy one for Gunnar. He's gonna come out, karate stance, he's gonna wait for his moment, somehow it will hit the ground. And after that, Gunnar's just so heavy on his hips. He's so tight on you. And what I like about Gunnar's style is that when he has you down, he works you. He works you so you can start moving and squirming, and eventually he starts setting you up for a submission. That's exactly what I think is going to happen here. He's gonna get the fight to the ground. He's gonna work Holland. Holland's gonna squirm. He's gonna scramble. Surprisingly, Holland is a good scrambler, but I just think, again, like I mentioned, Gunnar's heavy hips and the fact that he stays so tight to you, he's gonna pretty much ride the bull. And I say within a minute or two of being on the floor, Gunnar's gonna get a submission. So I have a submission here from Gunnar Nelson. Fifth fight of the evening, we have a light heavyweight bout. We have a returning Sean Blachowicz, finally, versus Carlos Ulberg. Let's start off with Carlos Ulberg, a guy that's just coming in, steamrolling everybody, except for his last fight against Volkan Ozdemir. Now, although he wasn't able to steamroll Volkan Ozdemir, what I liked was that we finally saw a 3-round fight. And he was able to keep up. He was more disciplined. He was still as dangerous as ever. But to me, that was a good thing because it showcases that he's capable of more than just quick, flashy KOs. Sean Blachowicz, on the other hand, like I mentioned, coming off a huge, long layoff. I don't know how he's going to look because even in some interviews, in the break that he's had, it seems like he lost motivation. He was heartbroken from his loss of Charriere. But rewatching that Charriere fight with Sean did well. Although he has this herky-jerky weird style, almost reminds me kind of like a Keith Jardine, where they kind of seem stiff, but they can be athletic at the same time. It's kind of weird. That's Sean Blachowicz, and he was able to, I know people are going to disagree here, he kind of outstruck Alex Pereira. Sean tends to be a guy that throws 1-2s, has a devastating left hook, as we can see from some of his previous highlights. Decent wrestling. He will go for the single leg takedown and kind of take you and work you from there. I just don't think Carlos Ulberg has fought someone like Sean Blachowicz. What worries me here is that there's another thing I noticed in the Alex Pereira fight, that Sean gassed out bad. And if he does that against Carlos Ulberg, a guy who's explosive and athletic with his punches, it's not going to be good news for Sean Blachowicz. I'm not sure how this fight's going to play out, but I kind of lean towards Sean Blachowicz. I think he's going to be able to go in there, throw some kicks, throw his punches, throw his combinations. He's not afraid to get in there and throw a 1-2-3 to see how his opponent reacts. And if he's able to tie up Carlos Ulberg and he's able to take him and drag him down off his single that he's really good with, I think Sean can easily win a unanimous decision here. This just all depends if he's going to come in with ring rust or if he hasn't adjusted his cardio issue. If he has slightly improved his cardio, he's going to win this, like I mentioned. He's going to be able to drag Carlos into the deep waters. He's going to be able to tire him out, take his explosiveness away, and win a unanimous decision. Sixth fight of our main card. We are at our main event. It is a welterweight bout between Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Leon Edwards' last performance lost his belt against Belal Muhammad, a guy that pushed the pace, who threw 1-2-3s, went for the double leg takedown, held him up against the cage, and tired him out, picked him up, swooped him up, worked him on the ground. I mean, you name it. And speaking of the Belal doing that to Leon, Sean Brady has a very similar style. Although Leon Edwards never quit on himself and he showed some pretty decent sharp striking, some knees off the clinch to the midsection of Belal that looked painful, firing off his known kick, his lead kick, right, southpaw. Although I never saw him quit, you could tell visibly he did not have a good poker face. You can tell he knew, crap, I'm going to lose this one. Sean Brady's last fight against Gilbert Burns, man. What grit in that guy. Very tenacious, very rough, the guy that just tucks his chin in, will go in there, mixes it up real quick, pushes you up against the cage, looks to secure takedowns, and he's relentless about it. He was able to do this for 5 rounds. I mean, he worked Gilbert Burns, outstruck him. Not once did I really notice Sean Brady in trouble. I mean, he ate some big shots, but he took it. And as the rounds went on, the stronger he got. You saw the takedowns against Gilbert Burns become a lot easier, and he was able to pick him up and slam him more and more as the 4th and 5th round came in. As mentioned before, Sean Brady and Belal Muhammad have a very similar style, and I think this is going to be a very similar fight for Leon Edwards when he fought Belal Muhammad. I don't think Leon Edwards is equipped for that type of wrestling. Now, I know people are going to say, well, he was able to kind of hold off and fend off Kamaru Usman, but Usman has a different style of wrestling. His takedowns come differently. Belal Muhammad and Sean Brady, they like to push and they shoot a double and they hold it there, and they're powerful enough to hold you in position until they clasp their hands together, they pick you up, and you're in for a ride. I think Leon Edwards clean and dangerous 1-2s and once in a while firing off his lead kick is not going to be enough to stop Sean Brady. Sean Brady's going to march forward. He's going to throw 1-2-3, and the second Leon Edwards reacts, boom, we're going to see a double. And that's going to be the story of the fight. And he's also going to do a similar blueprint as Belal Muhammad. When this fight is said and done, I see Sean Brady getting his hand raised. It's going to be a clear, unanimous decision for Brady, and he's on his way to getting his get back against Belal Muhammad.